Welcome, everybody. This is my Sweet 16 draft video for the 1986 Stratomatic cards. This is where we just do an imaginary first round draft, pretending that you're in a 16 team league and everyone is basically starting from scratch. In this video, we're going to go through the first round, and then later on in the video, we'll map out a second and third round. So, all in all, you're going to see 48 players come off the board. I could tell you this was a difficult draft to map out. And I'm not going to go into great detail on that yet. I want to get into the picks. And I made little notes on my sheet to talk about the parts of the draft where there was a lot of movement. So I'll get into that as we make the picks. So without further ado, let's get into our 1986 Sweet 16. Already put it out there the other day. I sent out a short video letting everyone know that Wade Boggs is my number one pick in the 1986 Stratomatic draft. Like I said, for the most part, I was thinking Don Mattingly would go number one overall. I was also looking at Mike Schmidt, but honestly, the more and more I looked at Wade Boggs, I just kind of said to myself, look, I think Wade Boggs is number one third baseman in the 1986 Strat set, and I think he has overall the best card in 1986. Base percentage of over 450, hit over 340 with runners in scoring position. To me, this is uh, a perfect example of a guy who you could hit one, two, or three in your lineup. And to me, those guys are just golden in Stratomatic. Perfect mix of on base and hits with multiple base advancement. I'm not even worried about the fact that he doesn't have that much power on his card. You can see he's W power against right-handed pitching. I don't even worry about that because he could still be a top of the line run producer for you if you hit him second or third in your lineup because of his hits with multiple base advancements. So there you have it. Wade Boggs is my number one overall pick in my 1986 Sweet 16. Number two is Don Mattingly. He's my number one first baseman for 1986. This is just a great card out of Mattingly. Nothing bad to say about it. Of course, he plays elite defense at first base. You could see his one column is just loaded with power and hits with multiple base advancement. You look outside of his column and you see all those two asterisk hits. You can't go wrong taking Don Mattingly, number two overall. My number three player is Mike Schmidt. I and again, I could tell you there was a while there where I was thinking Mike Schmidt might go number one overall. It definitely ups the ante a little bit when you look at Schmidt's card and you realize the fact that he plays elite defense at third base and first base. Just your typical Mike Schmidt card from his prime years, loaded with power and on base chances. Just a great card out of Mike Schmidt. So he's my number three pick for 1986. And my number four pick is Kirby Puckett. In my opinion, he's by far and away the best center fielder in the 1986 set. 366 on base, 537 slug. You can see just a lot of power in his one column, and he's got nice hits with multiple base advancement outside of his column. Elite defense in center field. He's a 1 E6 -4 arm. You could make an argument Kirby Puckett could be the number one pick in this draft also. I think that's just a matter of taste. Some people may value the center field position over infield. That's very possible as well. So, in my opinion, um, keeping in mind that the top four picks are Boggs, Mattingly, Schmidt, Puckett, I think you can make an argument for any four of those players going number one overall. And I think this is where we've kind of reached that first step in our 1986 Sweet 16 where the number one overall pick caliber players are now all gone. But don't worry, there's still plenty of good players to be had. Let's get going with the number five pick. San Diego Padres Tony Gwynn. This is my number one right fielder in the 1986 set. Again, Much in the mold of Wade Boggs. This is a guy you could hit one, two, or three in your order. Double A stealing, plays elite defense in right field, plenty of hits with multiple base advancement. Tony Gwynn is a great pick. If you're picking number 5 in this draft, don't feel bad that you missed out on Boggs, Mattingly, Schmidt, Puckett, because you got Tony Gwynn on your team. Number 6 overall. Now, this guy was a riser within the first round. He was always in my first round. I think I originally had him around, I probably had him around 9 or 10 in my first draft of my 1986 Sweet 16. But a perfect combination of power and speed and defense. To me, those all check the boxes in Stratomatic. Cincinnati Reds, Eric Davis. You can see he's a one in all three outfield positions, -3 arm, like I just said. Combination of power, speed, defense. I'm all in on that. So that's my number 6 overall pick. Number 7 overall, we're going to go with Tim Raines, National League batting champion for 1986, 334 average, 476 slug, 413 on base percentage. And it also really helps too that Tim Raines' defense is in check for 1986. You know, there were lots of years where Tim Raines was a 4 in the outfield. He's a 1 and an E7 in left field, so that definitely helps. And again, go back to what I said about Wade Boggs and Tony Gwynn. This is a guy you could hit 1, you could hit him 2, you could even hit him number 3 in your order, depending on how the rest of your lineup shakes out, because he does have some nice hits with multiple base advancement on his card. So Tim Raines finished 7th overall in my first round. Now, let's move on to the number 8 pick. I would say this guy, right? Originally, I had this guy towards the bottom of my first round, and I did do a short on this card, asking everyone to let's forget about the name on the card and just look at the card itself. Because I know 1986 was not his best year, or it's also not his best card when you look at the fact that his on base percentage was only, and I say only, 358 in 1986. Again, you've got the combination of power, speed, and defense. This guy shot up in my first round, like I said, from the bottom of my first round all the way up to number 8. New York Yankees center fielder Ricky Henderson. Again, his on base percentage that year was only 358. He had lots of years where his on base percentage was 400 or above. So his card isn't loaded with on base chances like it is in the past. But if you just forget about some of his cards from the early 1980s and even some of the cards later on that he would have in his career, power, speed, defense. You just can't go wrong. You see, he still has nicely placed on base chances outside of his primary column, which is, of course, the 2 column. You look at him against lefties and righties, he's got walks on 1-5, 1-6, and 1-8, with a couple of on base chances. In the 3 column, he's got a walk on 3-6, he's got a single on 3-7 against righty. So Ricky Henderson is definitely a guy who shot up in my first round. He definitely did. And again, I think I kind of fell into the trap where I kind of said to myself, okay, it's not your typical Ricky Henderson card where it's loaded with walks and on base chances. He hit for a lot of power in 1986. He finished with 28 home runs in 1986. I think it would be really hard to pass on Ricky Henderson right here if you're sitting in the 8th spot in this first round. So Ricky Henderson is my number 8 player off the board for 1986. Number 9, remember when I said put it in 3-inch bold letters, this guy will be in my first round? There we have it. Jesse Barfield, number 9 overall. I could tell you what definitely ups the ante on Jesse Barfield, of course. Everyone thinks of him as a right fielder. He also plays elite defense in center field, great power in that 1 column, just the right amount of on base chances outside of his primary column. I think this is a really nice centerpiece to put on your team in the first round. Jesse Barfield, Toronto Blue Jays, goes number 9 overall. So we get to the number 10 spot in my Sweet 16 first round here, okay? And this is where I really started to have a hard time mapping out the rest of my first round. And I'll tell you why. Full disclosure, this is where in my first, and I would even say second, third drafts of me mapping out this first round, this is where I started to have some pitchers come off the board. But as I started mapping out the second round of this draft, I started to realize that, look, if you're going to take a pitcher in the first round of a draft, and again, we are going through an imaginary 16 team league here, right? So we're looking at having the number 10 overall pick. So you don't pick for another 13 picks until after you make the number 10 pick. So if you take a pitcher here, you better be sure that there's going to be a handful of players around when you pick again who you could say, this guy is my centerpiece offensive player. I didn't see a lot of them around this area of picking 22, 23, 24, 25 overall, when you're looking at the second round of a draft. So that is what really made the pitchers drop a little bit in my first round. So I think sometimes when you're either drafting or like when I used to be in a fantasy baseball league, we used to do auctions. In basically every draft or auction I've been through, there always comes that time in a draft where you start to panic a little bit. And then you just got to kind of tell yourself, okay, take a deep breath, just make a pick here. That's right. And then adjust as we go into the next round or the auction goes forward, right? And in my opinion, a perfect get right pick here at number 10 overall is New York Mets Keith Hernandez. Just your typical Keith Hernandez card, elite defense at first base. And again, anyone who watches my videos knows that I love guys in Stratomatic who provide lineup flex. A guy like Keith Hernandez is a perfect number 2 hitter or number 3 hitter in your order. And when you're just starting, um, the early steps of mapping out a Stratomatic team, one of the things that I really look for is how much lineup flex does this guy bring to a team? How many roles can he fill at a very high level? And to me, 1986 is just your typical Keith Hernandez card, loaded with on base chances and hits with multiple base advancement. To me, this is one of those get right picks where you just kind of say, okay, calm down. Let's just let's just take the best player available on the board. We build our offense around him, and then we'll see where we're at when we get to the second round. Same thing with my number 11 pick overall. Let's go with Boston Red Sox Jim Rice. Jim Rice that year hit 324, 384 on base percentage. Jim Rice just again power and hits with multiple base advancement on his card. His defense, as usual, is in check for 1986. As always, he's a 3 with a very in line E rating, right? So again, to me, this is just one of those picks where you just kind of say to yourself, okay, calm down. Let's just get this right. Jim Rice is the centerpiece of your lineup. You could bat him third or fourth every day. Number 12 overall, this is where I'm going to take the best shortstop in the 1986 set, Cal Ripken Jr. Now, to me, there are other shortstops in the 1986 who have better hitter cards. There are other shortstop who may be better in the field, but Cal Ripken is the best combination of the two. By far and away, in my opinion, the best shortstop in the 1986 set. Again, this is one of those get right picks where you just kind of say to yourself, this guy is the centerpiece of not only my team in the field because he plays a premium position of shortstop at a very high level, but this is a guy I hit 3, 4, 5 in my lineup every single day, and you could see he just hammers left-handed pitching as well. So Cal Ripken Jr. is my number 12 pick overall. So number 13 overall. Now remember, we are now getting to the part of the first round where if you're in a 16 team league, you're going to turn around and have a pretty quick pick. So if you're picking number 13 overall, you're only 7 picks away from when you pick again. So this was the part of the draft where when I looked at the first round, and again, at this time, I had already started mapping out my second round. This is where I kind of said to myself, okay, this is where I'm comfortable taking a pitcher because I believe there are going to be guys around when I pick again who I could use as a centerpiece item for my team in the field. So to me, your number 13 pick overall is going to be Mike Scott, Houston Astros, National League Cy Young Award winner. Look, in my opinion, Scott and Clemens are 1 and 1A when it comes to ranking the pitchers for 1986. I don't think there's much of a difference between the two cards. I personally like Mike Scott's card better, so that's why Mike Scott goes number 13 overall. Number 14 overall, I thought about it. I originally had a position player going number 14 overall, but in my opinion, picking 14th overall and Mike Scott just came off the board. I don't want to come out of this first round without one of the two top elite pitchers in the 1986 set. So this is where we get Roger Clemens come off the board, right? So Roger Clemens is my number 14 overall pick. So we move on to the number 15 pick overall. This was a very interesting position in my first round because you're going to see a first baseman come off the board pretty high in my second round, who I thought about taking here. He almost jumped into the first round. But in my opinion, my number 15 pick in my Sweet 16 is going to be Eddie Murray. To me, Eddie Murray is kind of in the mold of where we were a couple of picks ago. Keith Hernandez, Jim Rice, Cal Ripken Jr. You know, think about it. If you're sitting here at number 15 overall and we have all these top players coming off the board and your top two pitchers just came off the board, well, you don't really want to panic here and take another pitcher. I could tell you at one point, Fernando Valenzuela was my number 15 pick overall, but I kind of said to myself, okay, to me, that's a little bit of a panic pick, right? To me, this is where you need another one of those get right picks. And I don't think you can go wrong with Eddie Murray. Okay. A switch hitter with power who you could hit number 3 in your lineup every day. The only thing about Eddie Murray I'm not particularly crazy about, his E rating was a little bit high in 1986, though, but I'm going to ignore that. Again, what I'm looking for here is a centerpiece item who I could just plug in my lineup every single day, bat him third or fourth every day, switch hitter with power. Can't go wrong with Eddie Murray. So we get into the last pick of the first round, right? And I'm going to give you two picks here because to me, pick 16 is first round, pick 17 is the first pick of the second round. But to me, both of them you could consider first round picks here. I actually can't believe this guy jumped into my first round, but he just kept rising and rising and rising because the more and more I looked at his card, uh, whenever I'm trying to make a decision about a card, I kind of say to myself, okay, what is like my hierarchy of what I'm looking for in a player in a draft, especially when you're looking at the bottom of the first round. Okay, well, one of them is definitely obviously does a guy have a good card? Does he have enough hits and on base chances on his card? And number two, does he have nice hits with multiple base advancement? Number three, does he provide a little bit of lineup flex? Yeah, I think this guy definitely provides some lineup flex because you're going to see when you look at his card, this is a guy you could hit one or two in your order. He's a double A stealing. He plays a premium position at a pretty high level. This guy was a big time riser because I originally had him around the middle of the second round and he jumps into my official Sweet 16. My number 16 overall pick is Los Angeles Dodgers second baseman Steve Sachs. Steve Sachs finished second in the National League batting title race right behind Tim Raines. And you can see this is just an absolutely great card out of Steve Sachs. Again, he plays a premium position at second base. And I look at this card and I kind of say to myself, okay, this is a guy you could hit one or two in your order, double A stealing, right? So, Steve Sachs, again, this is a guy who just rose up the ranks as I was finalizing my Sweet 16. And let me give you my number 17 overall pick in my 1986 draft. Um, this is again the first pick of the second round. I'm going to follow up Steve Sachs with Joe Carter. I think Joe Carter is the best run producer left on the board. So I'm actually feeling really good about where Team 16 is sitting right now. Okay, you've got Steve Sachs, who you could hit one or two in your lineup, and you follow that up with Joe Carter, who you could hit three or four in your order. Like I said, I think he's the best run producer left in the draft, and he also provides you with some nice position flex. You could stick him at first base, or you could play him anywhere in the outfield. So I'm kind of liking where Team 16 is sitting right now. So that is my Sweet 16 first round for 1986. Now let's segue over to rounds 2 and 3. And this is where I'm going to need you guys to start taking some notes and let me know as you watch this video throughout what teams you think made out pretty well with their first, second, and third round picks, and which teams did I, well, not do so well for. Because I could tell you, uh, you know, I went through a number of different iterations of this draft, and even when I finalized it and said, "Okay, that's it, I'm done," there were a couple of teams where I said, "Yeah, I think I kind of screwed up." So it'll be interesting to see your comments. So without further ado, let's get into rounds 2 and 3 of my 1986 draft.
Okay, guys, here we go. Rounds 2 and 3 of my 1986 Stratomatic draft. We're going to go through this real quick. And again, I'm going to need you guys to pay attention because I want you guys to let me know what teams made out and what teams I screwed up for. Again, we're starting the second round here. Joe Carter was the first pick of the second round. That was Team 16 who took Steve Sachs. So we move on to Team 15. That was a team that took Eddie Murray. I'm going to pair him with Baltimore Orioles teammate Fred Lynn. So they have Eddie Murray and Fred Lynn. Team 14, that was a team that took Roger Clemens. I need to get this team. Robin Yount, center fielder. There's my centerpiece of my team in the field. Robin Yount plays elite defense in center field, and I look at him as a number 2 or possibly even a number 3 hitter. That's your third pick in the second round. We move on to Team 13 now. This is the team with Mike Scott. Again, I'm going to get them a center fielder, Dale Murphy, Atlanta Braves. There you have it. So you have 3 center fielders come off the board at the top of the second round. We move on to Team 12. Cal Ripken Jr. was taken in the first round. I'm going to pair him with George Brett. So there you have Cal Ripken Jr. and George Brett. We move on to Team 11. Here's the guy who almost made my first round. I absolutely love this card. I think he's the best hitter left on the board. Texas Rangers, Pete O'Brien. Okay, look at that card for 1986. So you got Jim Rice and Pete O'Brien. We move on now to team number 10. This is the team with Keith Hernandez. Let's give them George Bell, left fielder. A lot of power on that card. Really like this pick. That's a nice pairing with Keith Hernandez. We move on to team number 9. This is the team with Jesse Barfield. This pick here just felt right. Even though I'm not crazy about pairing 2 outfielders together in the first 2 rounds, we're going to go with Darryl Strawberry. So we'll just very simply move Jesse Barfield over to center field. Nice lefty-righty mix in the middle of your order. Love Darryl Strawberry's 1986 card. We move on to team number 8. This is the team with Rickey Henderson. Okay, and again, we're going to go with another outfielder here. It'll be a shame to have Rickey Henderson on the team and not a big run producer after him. We're going to give him Dave Parker. So there you have Rickey Henderson and Dave Parker. Those are the first 2 picks for team number 8. We move on to team number 7 now. This is the team with Tim Raines. I think it's time for the best catcher in the 1986 set to come off the board. Let's give him Gary Carter. Okay, so Gary Carter goes to team number 7. He's paired with Tim Raines. We move on to team number 6. This is the team with Eric Davis. Again, we're going to go with another outfielder here. I love this card out of Andre Dawson. Okay, so there you have Andre Dawson is paired with Eric Davis. Moving on to team number 5. This was the team with Tony Gwynn. Okay, I'm going to pair him with third baseman Gary Gaetti. So there's a nice lefty-righty mix in your order. Gary Gaetti, very good run producer, one of the top third basemen in this draft. We move on to team number 4. This is the team with Kirby Puckett. Okay, this pick just felt right here. I'm going to pair him with Kirk Gibson. Really like Kirk Gibson's card. He's got nice on-base chances, double-A stealing, plays good defense in right field. So there you have team number 4, Kirby Puckett and Kirk Gibson. Okay, moving on to team number 3 now. Okay, this is the team that took Mike Schmidt in the first round. Okay, and remember, we're getting to the point of the second round now where these teams are going to turn around and pick quick at the top of the third round. What I'm going to do for Mike Schmidt and team number 3, I'm going to give them Dwight Evans, right field. As always, he plays elite defense in right field. Just a typical Dwight Evans card. A lot of on-base chances, good power. Really like this pick of Dwight Evans here at the bottom of the second round. Team number 2, this is the team that took Don Mattingly. And again, this team's going to turn around and pick real quick here. So I was thinking the best way for team number 2 to go, because the next guy who's coming off the board plays Mattingly's position, I'm going to give team number 2 an ace, Fernando Valenzuela. So team number 2 comes out of the first 2 rounds with Don Mattingly and Fernando Valenzuela. We wrap up the second round. Team number 1, that's the team that took Wade Boggs. There's our first baseman coming off the board right there, Ken Hrbek. So that's a nice 1-2 punch in the middle of an order. Wade Boggs and Kent Hrbek. Now, we start round number 3 now, so team 1 has another pick. I feel like this team definitely has to look either middle infield or outfield. Okay, we're going to start the third round. First pick of the third round is Dave Winfield. So team number 1 through 3 rounds has Wade Boggs, Kent Hrbek, and Dave Winfield. Okay, so swinging back to team number 2 now. Again, this is a team with Don Mattingly and Fernando Valenzuela. I did a short video on this guy. I really like this pick here. We're going to go with Corey Snyder. Okay, he provides really nice position flex. Love his card against lefties and a good card against righties. A lot of power on his card. And you can see he could play the corner outfield spots, and you could also stick him at third base. So team number 2 through 3 rounds, Don Mattingly, Fernando Valenzuela, and Corey Snyder. Let's move on to team 3. This is the team with Mike Schmidt and Dwight Evans. I'm going to give this team an ace, Dwight Gooden. There we go. So team 3, Mike Schmidt, Dwight Evans, and Dwight Gooden. Moving on to team number 4. Again, this is the team with Kirby Puckett and Kirk Gibson. I'm going to give them a third baseman, Buddy Bell. Again, Buddy Bell's another guy who always had nice Stratomatic cards. So there you have that. Kirby Puckett, Kirk Gibson, and Buddy Bell. Team number 5. This is the team with Tony Gwynn and Gary Gaetti. Love this card. Von Hayes. Look at that position flex and look at that card, especially against right-handed pitching. Von Hayes goes very high in the third round. So again, team 5, Tony Gwynn, Gary Gaetti, and Von Hayes. Moving on to team number 6. This is a team with Eric Davis and Andre Dawson. I'm going to give them the best power hitter left on the board. First baseman, Glenn Davis. Okay, so again, team 6, Eric Davis, Andre Dawson, and Glenn Davis. Moving on to team number 7 now. We got Tim Raines and Gary Carter. Again, I feel like I got to grab this team an ace. There we have Bob Ojeda. Now, I do believe there is one more legitimate Stratomatic ace, and you are going to see him come off the board very soon, but I like Bob Ojeda's card a little bit better. So team 7 comes out of the first 3 rounds with Tim Raines, Gary Carter, and Bob Ojeda. Move on to team number 8. This is the team of Ricky Henderson and Dave Parker. Ozzie Smith. And you're going to see another shortstop come off the board here real soon. And I just felt like as I was going through my third round, I felt like I wanted to, or that I was going to grab some shortstops here just to kind of stabilize some of these teams, get some infield presence on the team. And see, Ozzie Smith does have a nice card in 1986. He's pretty good at getting on base. He's got some nice on base chances outside of his primary column, which is the one column. Of course, he plays elite defense. Don't have to talk about that. A stealing, 1-17 running the bases. So I think this is a nice complementary player for Rickey Henderson and Dave Parker. Obviously, Dave Parker is a middle of the lineup guy, but hey, when you look at Rickey Henderson's card, this is a card you don't necessarily have to hit leadoff. You could hit him second or third in your order and use him as a run producer. So team number 8, you have Rickey Henderson, Dave Parker, and Ozzie Smith. Moving on to team number 9. This is the team with Jesse Barfield and Darryl Strawberry. Okay. Again, we have another shortstop come off the board. Toronto Blue Jays, Tony Fernandez. So if you remember, I did a short a couple of weeks back talking about where all the shortstops are, and it turns out that I never dug up Tony Fernandez's card. You could make an argument that Tony Fernandez has a better card than Ozzie Smith. Both of them very similar players, switch hitters, both ones in the field. Ozzie's an E17, Tony Fernandez is an E14. But again, I just felt like as I went through this third round, I wanted to, like I just said, stabilize some of these teams and get them both an anchor for the infield. And what a better way to do it than to get a Gold Glove caliber shortstop who could also get on base. And that's pretty much what you have in both Ozzie Smith and Tony Fernandez. Now we move on to team number 10. This is a team with Keith Hernandez and George Bell. Here is, in my opinion, the last legit Stratomatic ace in the 1986 set, Mike Witt. Okay, so team number 10 comes out of the first 3 rounds with Keith Hernandez, George Bell, and Mike Witt. And I'm just going to have to take a second here because I kind of messed up the cards as I was reaching across the table. Moving on to team 11. This is a team with Jim Rice and Pete O'Brien. You know what? You got a really nice lefty-righty mix in the middle of your order here with Jim Rice and Pete O'Brien. It would be a shame if this team did not have a table setter and, again, an anchor in your infield. I'm going to go with Bill Doran. There's your leadoff hitter. Plays elite defense at second base, double-A stealing, and you can see he's got a pretty nice card when it comes to getting on base. So team 11 comes out of the first 3 rounds with Jim Rice, Pete O'Brien, and Bill Doran. Moving on to team number 12 now. This is a team with Cal Ripken Jr. and George Brett. Again, I know I say this from time to time. Sometimes a pick just feels right. Even though I know that there might be better cards left on the board. You know, looking at Ripken and Brett, I mean, your infield is anchored. I mean, even though you don't have a second baseman or first baseman yet, obviously, you know, I'm thinking to myself when I'm making this pick, okay, I need an anchor in my outfield, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a power guy. I'm going to give them Lenny Dykstra. Center field, elite defense, and you can see he's pretty nice at getting on base. You could play him against both lefties and righties. Use him as your leadoff guy. So team number 12 comes out of the first 3 rounds with Cal Ripken Jr., George Brett, and Lenny Dykstra. Moving on to team number 13 now. This is a team that took Mike Scott in the first round, and they took Dale Murphy in the second round. I feel like this team needs to make a splash and maybe take a risk here that is a little bit higher than I would like to see this guy come off the board, albeit he has a great card. But I did a short on this player, and I don't like his injury, but I think it's a good time for Hubie Brooks to come off the board. Look at that card for a shortstop. Look at how he hits. But again, he's got that injury on 2-9 that you got to be a little bit worried about. But again, I just felt like this team needed to make an offensive splash here, right? So team number 13 comes out of the first 3 rounds with Mike Scott, Dale Murphy, and Hubie Brooks. Now we get down to the final 3 picks of the 3rd round. Team number 14, Roger Clemens and Robin Yount. I think this guy has the best hitter card left on the board here, especially since Hubie Brooks just came off the board. Hubie Brooks probably would have gone to team 14 if team 13 didn't take him right before. But I do like this card as a corner outfielder, switch hitter with power, right? I think Kevin Bass complements Robin Yount really well in the lineup. Now, in the later rounds, this team is obviously going to have to find a leadoff hitter. But Team 14 comes out of the first round with their ace, Roger Clemens, your center fielder, Robin Yount, and a corner outfielder, either right field or left field, Kevin Bass. Moving on to Team 15. This is the team that took Eddie Murray in the first round and Fred Lynn in the second round. I'm going to give this team the corner outfielder that they need and a nice right-handed power bat to complement Fred Lynn in the lineup, Kevin McReynolds. Okay, so there you have that. Team 15, Eddie Murray, Fred Lynn, and Kevin McReynolds. Now for my final pick of the video. Of course, if you saw my short from yesterday or the other day, you'll know who it is. Team 16, this is a team with Steve Sachs and Joe Carter. I'm going to start to lock down this team starting pitching and give them the best starting pitcher left on the board, Ted Higuera. And I do have an idea as to who this team would have taken with the first pick of the 4th round, but I wanted to end this video after 3 rounds. So again, who do you guys think came out the best in these 3 rounds? And do you think I made any mistakes along the way? As I was going through it, I was kind of second guessing some of the 3rd round picks, right? I could definitely tell you right off the bat, I definitely like the way team number 4 came out, right? That's a team with Kirby Puckett, Kirk Gibson, and Buddy Bell. Really like what they have going in that lineup. And also, you look at team number 3, that team came out of the first 3 rounds with Mike Schmidt, Dwight Evans, and their ace, Dwight Gooden, right? So what do you guys think? Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about these 3 rounds. Is there somebody who went too high, too low? Maybe somebody I left out of my 3 rounds, but those are the 3 rounds of my 1986 Stratomatic draft. So once again, I thank you all for watching. It is greatly appreciated, and I'll talk to you all down the road.